Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. We missed
We
you.
missed you.
We had a much needed just couple of days away to try and de-stress a bit and have a bit of a break from the horrors, because not reporting, but chatting every day about stuff and looking into the detail and the minutiae of everything that's going on. And as you know, for the last 9 months, 10 months, we've been so engaged in Gaza. And it takes its toll. So we took a couple of days off, and we can't quite believe
Well,
what's been going on.
well, it had started before we took a couple of days off. So, but I mean, we had talked about the kind of original riots and the original kind of conflict, and what have you. But it seems to have just
Nothing
kind of
like this, though.
accelerated at a ludicrous rate. But I think what we want to do is we want to sort of talk through what you're feeling, how you're feeling, if you've experienced it. We are also going to be talking about the fears that the police have for today, or more specifically tonight. It tends to happen in the evening, as is the way. People drink a little bit more by the end of the day, and then they behave a little bit more naughtily.
So these are the riots that are popping up all over the country, have been over the last few days, just in case. Classic ADHD. I just launched into the middle without really starting.
Well, and also, just most of our British viewers will know what's going on. So, I mean, at the same time, Elon Musk is in the fray, sort of aggravating things. So, I really want to talk about the role of social media. I want you to tell us what can one do as well? I mean, it's easy to point fingers at Kier Starmer and go, "Oh, he's not," and apparently a YouGov poll says he's not doing enough, and it's all not very good, and But it's much more complicated than it would at first appear. I want to talk about this idea of two-tier policing, because I just think some of the phraseology that's being used, we talked a lot last week about the enough is enough phrase. Elon Musk's used language like Britain's about to enter a civil war, so I just want to get a sense.
And the way I believe very much that Islamophobia has been, the fever has been fed by certain politicians and for sure certain newspapers and media outlets, and I think have really galvanized a group of people, validated a group of people. And I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but personally, I would be arresting some of those politicians myself if I was in charge. Yeah. I'd be bringing them in for inciting riots. That's what I would do. I'm not going to say anyone, but you can probably guess who I think those people are.
Epsington says the person having a real laugh at this is Vladimir Putin. I would correct that. I'm not suggesting for a minute that Russian bots aren't potentially involved, but please be cautious. It strikes me as curiously coincidental that Muslims aren't the only target here, but Muslims are a principal and huge part of the target. And who in the world at the moment is positioned his position is most anti-Muslim in the world? Israel. Do not be just won over by the idea this is just Russian interference. Israeli interference operates at the highest levels of government here and in America, and openly. So imagine what's happening without visibility too. Just before we plow on into anything else, though, I just want to very quickly sing a happy birthday to Michelle Nye, because I promised we would, because I know that dear Ian said that you would like to have this at the beginning of the show. So we're going to sing you this now.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michelle. Happy birthday to you. Have a lovely, lovely day. And
sorry,
now
it's in
go
amongst
away
all this news.
And don't listen to any of this.
Yeah. Just park us aside.
Go on, go and have a hot birthday.
And be looked after by your lovely fella. So lots of people in the room were singing you happy birthday. So, can I just ask this simple question though first? One of the big parts of this that I see pumping through and dribbling through from a lot of people, both in the public eye, people I've even heard sort of talking about this in conversations who aren't right. These are people who clearly aren't rioters. They're not violent people. They're not protesters. But a line that I keep hearing is this: we don't agree with the riots, but they speak for me.
Yeah.
This is becoming the new thing.
This is really dangerous, I think.
And I want to know, if you say that sentence, is it a little bit like saying, I'm not racist, but? For me, there are huge parallels. It feels like you're saying the rioters, I wonder what the rioters are doing, But, and I think in that but is the suggestion of, yeah, actually, I really want other people to riot on my behalf because I don't want to riot, because then this topic that I feel is really important to me and actually comes from an equally, potentially, I'm just asking this, potentially ill-informed, wrongly targeted insofar as immigrants are somehow the cause of all of our problems. Let's just pause that for a moment. Without immigration, we wouldn't have survived after World War II. We wouldn't be here. Just got to say how we can contort our history into thinking migration didn't define us is staggering. So at the point that things are getting a bit squeaky bum in other areas of our lives, we turn against. Anyway, is it like that? Is it, I'm not racist, but is it the same sort of thing? Or do people here very much feel, no, I don't agree with the protests, I don't agree with the violence, but they really are speaking to something.
But then what you have to do is break down, what are the protesters shouting?
Yeah.
They're shouting over, get out, give us back our England. Are you white? Cars being stopped. Are you white? If you're white, you can go through. Yeah. Is that the bit that you're agreeing with? Well, what's the bit you're agreeing with?
Paula W. It's defamation of character to call us all far right. Okay, that's a great little kind of...
That kicks us off.
That's a nice flag stand in the sand. Let's just hold that there. Okay, so Paula, defamation of character to call us all far right. Okay, so what is it that you agree with in these protests or riots? What is it that is speaking to you?
If they were standing peacefully protesting, what would be on your banner?
Yeah, what should they? Okay, well, a better question is,
we've had 9 months of being told that the Palestinian marches were hate marches. 9 months, we've been on many of them. Nothing even vaguely like what we've seen over the last few days has happened. Nothing. So what is the protest? If this is just a protest that's got out of hand, what would be quietly on those banners as you were walking down the street?
Oh, Dawny, it is quite limited to sometimes write complicated thoughts here. We're aware of that, so don't worry. But I feel I can't say my point here because I won't be understood correctly. Oh, sweetie, I mean, whatever you've got to say will be understood and heard. Our line is always say whatever you feel in a way that we know that you're not going to be saying anything horrible.
I've said
if that's what you mean, or whether other people will be annoyed.
I've said this before, and I think a lot of people are really fucked off with the haves and have-nots, that there seems to be this incredible divide, of which there is. We are very London-centric. Hospitals, schools, mental health services, everything is in a right old mess, right? And that is because of consecutive governments not investing. Every one of them comes in, says, education. You talk to any teacher and they're going to tell you that they're burnt out, that they're overwhelmed. The NHS, do you remember how much we were promised it was all going to be okay once Brexit happened? The NHS is in a dire state. Now, what we discovered yesterday, a lot of people don't know, we didn't know this, did we? Actually, if you are a foreigner here, living here, you have to pay for the National Health Service. Did you know that?
Yeah, you don't get the benefits.
We didn't know that. But anyway, all of these problems, if every single immigrant was thrown out of here tomorrow, would still be present. And I think people are really fed up of the prices of everything. This is a very, very expensive country. It really, really is. The price of food. I mean, is that illegal immigrants' fault? The price of food? Is the fact that our doctors are all bloody leaving the country, going, well, not all, but many of them are going to Australia and going to America. They're getting headhunted from other countries all over the world because we train them brilliantly, we treat them terribly, and then they go to another country. And do you know what? I don't blame them. So is that the fault of illegal immigrants? Well, at the moment, without people coming from other countries to help the NHS, we would be in a much worse state. So, what is it? What is it in your life that you think you can 100% put at the door of immigrants?
Just want to make a note. Stacey Randall, will you do your birthday
Because
at the
I
end,
do
sweetie?
think governments have wound you up about that and made you think that it's that. So you don't really hold them to account for where they're letting people down and where they're lying and making false promises, Where's the investment up north? Where is it? Do you remember everything Boris promised? Do you remember that? Did he really help out the north? Not really.
Someone's just mentioned Scotland. I also want to talk about Scotland because someone rang into LBC yesterday while we were driving, and it was a really interesting.
Brilliant.
To be in the spirit of transparency, I think there are some protests. There are moments and pockets of it, resistance. I mean, there's racists everywhere, aren't there? So this is happening in Scotland, but at a much lower level. But he made a couple of people who rang in made really interesting points. That it isn't about a policy difference. It isn't about any sort of massive kind of difference in a set of circumstances, though I would say that Scotland, there are so many elements of Scottish life, though, which many English people say they're subsidised by England, to be fair, that they can afford to have free, higher education and things like that.
Well, except they do bring in an awful lot of foreigners to pay for
absolutely,
that. It's getting harder and harder for Scottish people to get a place in uni.
No. So, okay, well, on that point, Scotland has its own pressures, you could argue. So let's say foreign students, I don't know what foreign students taking up places in Scottish universities, that would be a cause for potentially aggravation and upset in Scotland. Anyway, the point that they were making...
But why are they brought over? Because our governments don't support universities. They need the money.
Want to get this point out. But the thing that they said about Scotland, which I thought was really interesting, was just the language and the attitude amongst all politicians hasn't been inflammatory.
Yeah.
And I think we underestimate the extent to which not only do I have our successive Tory governments use the most inflammatory language about migrants and Muslims specifically,
come down like a ton of bricks on any anti-Semitism, but Islamophobia always has to be questioned and argued.
Right down to,
really...
and I don't want to get into a kind of a difficult situation, right down to even if a Muslim politician is saying this, they get challenged for, why is Islamophobia a thing? You're not allowed to challenge anyone about anti-Semitism, for example. This stuff beds into the fabric of society so that you can't look up and go, oh, I read an article in the Daily Mail on that day, and that's what made me think. It doesn't work like that. It's
Boris
the drip,
and letterbox.
Drip effect of our press and our politicians, and this is the consequence of this. Now,
Sawalha Braverman, every single week calling the Palestinian marches hate marches.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Her rhetoric was just extraordinary. Actually, I will never forget. This was before Boris was in, of course, when he did that horrible article where he called women that wore the veil, letterbox women. That's sanctioned. That's sanctioned an awful lot of people to say whatever they wanted.
Oh, absolutely. So I think there is. The reasons propaganda is so successful, and the reasons that these kind of false kind of equivalences and untruths take purchase is they speak to an emotional need in people to find some kind of quick hit answer and excuse
to them
for whatever's going on in their life, and for different people at all different levels. This is why many people, middle class, everyone. I mean, you made a good point about Scottish education. It will be people who are sending their kids to university. There can be a reason at all levels of society to point to someone else for the fact that this isn't working for you. Now, Vic, I think, went up earlier. We will never be allowed to know just how Brexit has aggravated and the whole sorry saga, because I think the split that we're getting again now speaks to the vote for reform, the sympathies for people like Tommy Robinson, and the original group of people who aren't all, not all Brexit, I've said it many times, not all Brexiteers are racist,
No.
but if you're racist, you will have probably voted for Brexit. Yeah. If you weren't one of the racists or thugs that couldn't find the actual polling office, you would have voted for Brexit. And I feel the same division here. I mean, I'm just going to pop up a map of all the anticipated flare-ups that are considered to be happening today. And you look at places. This is in the Mail and the Sun. This is what the police have issued today. The police have actively said themselves, they are concerned at the strength and size of what they're having to contend with and potentially deal with today. Now, what's interesting is you look at this list, and for example, Croydon isn't even on there, not even as London. And that's one of the, that's already Croydon local. Lots of local newspapers are issuing.
But the problem is that there's a lot of rumours, isn't there? So it's like, and that not only galvanises rioters because they feel the strength and they feel that it's happening everywhere. So that's kind of a propaganda, but also it frightens people. So I think that is when it is best to look at, go to certain, verified sources on that, because there will be people that are feeding off this fear. I mean, newspapers would be feeding off this fear, won't they? They love this. They've got something for the front page every day. You don't see as many stories about the people that are, marching against it, and the people that are horrified by it, absolutely horrified by what's going on. Because that doesn't sell papers in the same way, does it?
And of course, what you're getting now is I think we talked about, did we talk about it yesterday? We talked about it somewhere. This idea that a lot of the far right, or the kind of protest organizers, they're creating, in a sense, what are they, false flag sort of situations, or not real kind of demonstrations, in order to generate an anti-protest, say from Muslim communities or local communities or anti-fascist groups. And when those anti-fascist groups turn up and there's no one there, what I think the optics that they're wanting to sort of be shared with the public, which happened in Birmingham, is you then see images of groups, which I'm not entirely sure, does it actually exist, the Muslim Defence League? Lots of people debate whether the English Defence League exists anymore. It might not exist as a kind of website with a kind of, about us little menu and how to contact us. But I think pretty much the EDL is still going.
You closed the university, Tunica.
Which university?
Good God.
Where are you? Yeah.
You're right, Jackie Valino. The violence against the police is absolutely disgusting. I mean, it is just disgusting. I was listening to head of community police today, and he said, God, it's incredible. They're going home. A lot of police officers are going home for 2 hours and then coming back because they can't bear the thought of their colleagues being out there on their own. People have cancelled their holidays, or leave is cancelled. Is this terribly English? Is this English values? I mean, these are definite. Throwing rocks at people, at police officers that don't even. I mean, they've got what have they got? They've got the truncheon in the shield.
These are definitively hate marches.
They are. This is a hate march.
I mean, I don't know if you want a definition of what a hate march is, and of course, even, and I have to call him out. Shocking that I had time for this guy. Tom Swarbrick yesterday was genuinely trying to draw an equivalence between the violence that we're seeing and the few arrests that occurred.
You are
at
kidding
some
me.
of the he kept labouring the point that there was an equivalence.
God,
and you could hear this Muslim leader, local community leader, was just like, hang on a minute, of course there were people who should have been and could have been arrested for anti-Semitic statements on some of those marches. You're looking at marches of millions of people across the UK, and you're looking at a handful of arrests.
Well done, Tom. That stokes it up.
This just astonishing.
Stokes it up.
It's astonishing.
It's just embarrassing. We should go on a march. I'd like all those presenters on LBC to go on the next march. I challenge you. You've got a bit of on the street. So you're journalists that have actually been there and actually felt it, because if over months and months and months you are going to stoke up this bullshit, at least go there once.
No, but drawing that equivalence is absolutely helpful.
Really,
also, I have a real problem with this two-tier policing idea, because I'll tell you why. There is the only two tiers of policing that I do see, and we've been, for a moment we have to step to the side of being critical of all the different ways in which we've all been critical of the police, etc. But at the moment, when you have a moment like this, such civil unrest, they're your line of support, they're your line of defence, essentially. The only two tiers I see aren't two tiers of policing around not policing this or not policing that if it happens. Lots is being made of the Leeds riots, which got out of hand and had to be dealt with in whatever way they dealt with it in the end. The reason, the two tiers of policing that the police engage in is, if there's active violence, they will have to try and slam it down as hard as possible. So the reason there is a sense of two-tier policing actually proves that many of the Palestinian marches were peaceful. Not that they were treated with kid gloves.
It shows, look at the difference. Do you not think we would have seen it in close-up if there had been anything like this? Absolutely, me too. It's embarrassing. They're trying to create an equivalence between what they want the pro-Palestinian protest to be seen as the same. But it's embarrassing because we've got 9 months of proof.
Oh, look, I love it. Here,
it's just embarrassing. If anyone tries to draw a parallel to this, it's an embarrassment.
Bun TV, I love your statement. It's exactly what I'm speaking to. The only two-tier policing that's adopted is dealing with, one, violent offenders, or two, peaceful protesters.
Right, thank you.
So if you're seeing more of a police clampdown on white British men, it's because they're being more violent most of the protesters,
have you
tiny
seen?
pocket
I would love
that were
to.
on the
I would love to ask
Palestinian
this.
marches.
Have we seen one frame of video
No.
that you can liken to the protests in Palestine?
Mm.
One video. Because if you have, I would love to see it. It's embarrassing. To me, if Tom Swarbrick said that this morning, he's got real issues with himself.
Absolutely.
If he thinks we're going to buy that.
So all the papers, obviously today, all the news is looking at what's going to happen later today. Britain on a knife edge, etc. Tommy Robinson, meanwhile, is in Cyprus sunbathing. Kier Starmer is kind of is promising that he can protect everyone. We have actually got more. Believe this, I found this curious. We've got more police officers now to deal with this than we did with the 2011 riots. A lot of riot experts. Social disorder experts on the radio today saying all these things do have to peter out at some point. They can't maintain the level. Now,
it's usually weather. The riots, do you remember those last riots? They kept saying, we were like, seriously?
Yeah.
They're waiting for the weather to change. I can't remember what year that was. A long
2011.
time ago.
2011.
And then it did, and it rained, and everyone went home. Couldn't believe it.
Dawny, you make a good point. As soon as the football season starts, can we just hope and trust that maybe a huge number of these people will be actually, wanting to go back to the football? So I do think there will be a tipping point. I have to say,
65 people were taken to court yesterday.
Yeah.
I think, and this is what the police were saying this morning on Radio 4, the realisation is going to start really hitting that you will get sentenced. Mm-hmm. And for many people, never having gone, if you've never gone to prison before, a couple of weeks, a month, 6 weeks is very, very, very difficult. I've interviewed lots of times in prisons, and they've said after about 6 weeks, you start to get used to it a bit, but the first 6 weeks is absolute hell.
Michelle Hofstein is asking, did this all start after the poor kids getting killed at the nursery, dance nursery?
They used this as an excuse.
False connection.
And whipped up by
Farage.
And before that, who knows? Various
Farage
people
kept
abroad,
doubling down on the idea that we're not being told the full story. So what does that do? As soon as you start saying things like we're not...
But this was never anything to do with those poor little girls and their families. Those families begged for this to stop. That everyone stopped talking about the little girls and the horror of what's happened and the fact that our mental health services are absolutely broken because no sane person would have done what that person did. Nobody's talking about that. We're talking about this big cloud over here that we can keep using for all of the problems in this country. We have got so many problems in this country that have got fuck all to do with immigrants.
What about Elon Musk, guys?
How
was Elon Musk?
What's he got to do with
it? Why is he getting so actively involved in
British
British
stuff? What do you think
stuff?
about Elon Musk, Mark? If you start to tell them, and I'll
So Elon Musk has basically chimed
in.
He's called Kier two-tier Kier. He said civil war is coming in England. I mean, with his extraordinary power, obviously Elon Musk, he owns Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. He's been minimalistically sharing and and obviously the bigger issue is, of course, he's allowing and has reintroduced and allowed numerous people, key characters in all of this, to be able to post and disseminate information freely on Twitter. If you go onto Twitter, I go to Twitter to very quickly, you will see with what's trending. Just go to Twitter and just go to the search and put trending news UK, and you will get all of the top.
Exactly.
Enough is enough, two-tier Kier, all of the hashtags. And it does beg belief. You're sort of thinking, well, hang on a minute. This is going to make it very difficult for social media platforms because he is at the head of it and he's actively kind of fanning the flames of dispute and upset.
Just Stop Oil protesters had 5 years sentences for attending a Zoom meeting to plan a protest. Far-right thugs had 2 months.
It's going to be interesting to see the contrast of sentencing.
Two-tier policing.
That's a good example of two-tier policing. Absolutely, very good. Yeah.
Yes, I really do agree with that, Dawn. Yes, somebody here just said have you seen that Nigel Farage is blaming a tweet from Andrew Potato?
Yes.
So you went to Dulwich College School. He went to one of the top private schools, costs a fortune, Dulwich College, not far from here. That's where he went. And he got his information from Potato Head.
Police. But he actively engages in selective stupidity. Nigel Farage. That's what.
But come on,
Selective.
Really,
no,
you can't use that as.
No, but he'll be
defense.
selectively naive, won't he?
He was led astray by a tweet about
exactly. But I mean, I think this is how these people get away with it. They pretend it was just, oh well, I saw something that someone said. Zoe, yeah, huge parallels coming from Northern Ireland, used to riots due to sectarianism. I grew with such a divide in Ireland. The same people who are sectarian are also the ones who are racist. Now, the bigger problem, The Sun are running an article today, and it's titled this. As social firms, and this is where I start to get really worried about bigger things even than these riots. As social firms rake in profits spreading fake news, UK is left counting the cost with chaos and terrified communities. And when you read into this piece by The Sun, they then say something along the lines of what is going to be done about the likes of these social media platforms, because if newspapers such as ours were to do this, we would be closed. What I fear and I worry about is we're now going to see a rearguard action from the mainstream media as the only place that you can trust. And I'm worried even the Labour Party will get on board with somehow putting up sort of, what they call the sort of security barriers around social media news dissemination. Of course, what they have to understand is the platforms need to be able to control the inaccuracy of the language, the racism, like they very efficiently control copyright.
Why can't they do that with the papers?
Like
they
very
Why
efficiently
can't they control it with the newspapers?
No.
When
but
they
the point
print
is
an article like Boris.
But the papers sit within a kind of prescribed structure and rule system, don't they? Which they're saying is a good one that works for them. It doesn't work, and I'm really worried that one of the outcomes of this is going to be a clampdown on social media freedoms. Really. And it's a really difficult one because, of course, the more that these people use social media, the more social media becomes a target for the government. And the government, my worry is the government will take a very simplistic approach to it, which is limit, rather than actually just you seeing it as an articulation and an outlet of people who are saying things. It's the people that need to be dealt with. There needs to be a way of tracking, charting, and connecting the people saying this, rather than necessarily actually just saying to the stop the articulation, because you won't get the people to go away. You won't stop the feelings. And I'm really worried coming out of this, we will see a real erosion of freedom of speech and this masquerading idea that the mainstream media somehow is responsible and reliable, whereas everything else isn't. And that is potentially the most dangerous outcome of this. And I don't actually think the rioters will mind that, because the mainstream media, up until the end of the last government, principally kind of has been fanning all the flames of all of this all along. Do you get me?
Dark times.
Did you pull this up?
Isn't it? Yeah, good morning.
Oh, good morning
to
Pakistan. Hi, Pakistan. So I'm really worried about that. I'm really worried about how that's going to play out in terms of what they then do with social media and how they try and limit, because so what I'm trying to say is, imagine if they clamp down on all of these far right, but they could in the same breath then say, right, you can't be about anti-Israel.
Once you start doing anything, it becomes the unraveling of it. It's just scary, isn't it? But when you've got things happening like the names and addresses posted of the lawyers and solicitors that might represent
on the list today.
On Telegraph, is that short? I mean, already on social media there are lots of restrictions, aren't there? You can't show this, you can't show that. So why would that be allowed? Why would that account not be taken down?
Telegram.
Yeah, no, not the whole Telegram. I don't really know what Telegram is, but whatever account it was on Telegram that posted that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And there should always be an identifiable person with ID that's attached to every single account to disseminate
Everyone
information.
has been saying this since the beginning of time. Why can't there be ID for everybody?
Yeah, Laura S., but social media does need filtering. It's got scary, but it needs filtering so that because if you are complaining about something like our position on the whole Palestinian crisis, nothing we've said and nothing we've done has broken any of the rules that are currently in place. Nothing there. But if you start to arbitrarily say you can't say anything about Zionism, or you can't say anything at all, you are going to curtail the ability to say things. But if someone generates race hate or spreads personal information in an attempt to generate violence, you go directly to who they are and you do
That's
them.
not okay.
And you ban them from that social media platform.
A lot of these lawyers have had to move out of their homes. There's a little girl on the news yesterday saying, she was so scared she suddenly got a call, we've got to move out of the house straight away, can't go to school, can't do this, can't do that. Little girl, she was so scared. Something has to be done about that.
Absolutely. Okay, so shall we show a few funny clips?
So we have decided now at the end of every coffee moaning, we're going to have funny clips. We're going to have now over on our members area every single week. Maddie collates an amazing, what do you say? Clips, an amazing compilation of things going on the internet. So we're going to ask her to do moments of that each day here, and then a sort of sum up at the end of the week. But we haven't told you that yet, so
well,
I've just got a few that I've saved.
It's a little bit like the and finally that we've always said, but these will be just like funny clips. Laughs. So which one would you like to start with?
Let's go with him. I love this so much.
No, it's not cold.
Are you cold?
No, I'm not cold.
You're not cold?
No.
You want to get out?
No.
Are you cold?
No.
You're not cold?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm freezing.
I'm freezing. Remember the kids with their
that
image.
Every one of us have had our kids over. You come up like that with the goggles. We just love him so much.
And let's not forget, we're going to sing you your happy birthday at the end, Stacey.
Look at his little ears. Oh, it's Stacey's birthday.
Stacey, she just gifted 10 memberships.
Stacey, you're an addictive gifter.
You're an addicted gifter. Okay, let's have a look at this one.
This is unbelievable. I literally can't believe it. Yeah. What's that? Just got our dog tomorrow.
So what you've just seen is a dog come in from a walk, hang up a leash, wash its pads.
Turns on the tap, washes its front paws, then its back paws, and then its owner dries them. So if you want to see it, just go, if you're listening on podcast, go to YouTube channel and watch today's, because it's so cute.
So cute. And then I've got one other one here.
Oh, right. Now. I have never once not yawned.
It's the second time. Is anyone yawning?
So cute. Who's yawning? Just say yawn if you are.
Just two. So we're just seeing a footage of a baby yawning.
Yawn.
Oh, I don't want to be. I don't want to be yawning for the rest of the day.
Did everyone? How many people yawned?
Did you yawn?
Did you yawn?
Did you all yawn?
I yawn every time.
You were a yawner. Okay, so let's sing happy birthday to our lovely Stacey. Michelle, I hope you enjoyed yours earlier. A big happy birthday to you. I hope you have a lovely day, Michelle. Lots of love. To you, Andy. And Stacey, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stacey. Happy birthday to you. Have a lovely day, sweetheart.
Lots of love. Send Stacey lots of love, everyone.
Yeah. And stay safe. And also, the really important thing to say about all of this is it will run out of steam soon, and the police are in control.
And there are way, 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 way more good people than bad people in the world.
Absolutely. So stay safe, guys. Lots of love. Mwah.